Speaking of strategy, you'll now want to start thinking about your editorial creed, your canon, your 10 commandments. I'm not saying your blog is the Bible, but if you're doing it right, your blog is a go-to resource on X or Y topic, however small or niche that topic might be. Making sure that you cover your topic in a carefully planned out manner with consistency and common lexicon is key. Last week, we started the design for your style guide of your blog as part of our business plan. Make sure you plan to stick to that, but also set some guidelines for yourself. Editorial integrity is important. Say you're writing a travel blog and a hotel in California offers to fly you out to write a review. Will you accept the free trip? Would you take a media rate, which is typically a 30 to 50% discount off the regular room rate? Would you give the hotel a good review because you got a free trip? These quandaries may or may not apply to your industry and may or may not require a formalized policy. But remember that FTC guidelines do stipulate that you have to disclose in writing or a policy on your site if you receive a product or compensation for any review. Technically, if you receive over $600 in product or income from your blog, you also need to pay taxes on that income. It's best to consider these things before they arise so that you know how to answer questions from other bloggers and businesses when and if they come up. And again, if you have specific questions, I'm more than happy to answer them on the forum. But I digress. Let's go back to talking about blog setup. What is this thing called taxonomy? One of the main things we're going to start thinking about when you start your blog is taxonomy, or a way to classify how all of your posts relate to each other. In WordPress, we have two ways to do this: categories and tags. In Tumblr, we only have tags, but you can think about your taxonomy structure in the same way. Your categories are the things that you're going to write about most often. They may even be your regular features. They may be topical in nature. A lifestyle blog like Cupcakes and Cashmere, which we showed on the previous screen, has categories for things like fashion and food, DIY, and decor. These categories may also be a bit more detailed. A travel blog might have a category for hotels and another for airlines, but they could also have categories for things like luxury travel or adventure travel. Think of your categories as the rooms within your house: your living room, your kitchen, or your bedroom. Each blog post generally fits into one or more categories. Generally speaking, you'll have 1 to 3 categories per blog post. If you're finding that blog posts have more than 3 categories, you'll want to better refine your categories or consider if your article may be too broad to really reach the audience you intended to reach. Tags are a bit more granular. They are, if we're using the home analogy, the items within your home. You could, in theory, have unlimited tags within each post, but I would suggest somewhere between 3 and 7 and no more than 10 per post. These tags are the who, what, when, and where of your blog post, names of people, places, and things that could help further sort out your content. A travel blogger would include the name of the country and the name of the hotel or the tour operator as tags, and a fashion blogger might name a store or a designer. A food blogger might tag their things with gluten-free or a vegetarian or a 30-minute meal. When I say these tags are the items within your home, remember that you will have more items than you will rooms, and these tags might transcend categories. Pillows, for example, could be found in both the living room and the bedroom. So what the heck are we talking about when we say that tags and categories, all this stuff, we don't even have content yet, you ask? There's a really good reason. When you have dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of posts, your tags and categories can quickly get overwhelming and disorganized if you don't have a proper tracking system. Tags and categories can be useful for readers, for you, and for search engines too. Tags and categories show that there are groupings of information around discrete topics. In WordPress, these tags often appear right below a post, and readers click on these tags to see more posts you've written on a single topic. Using the Cupcakes and Cashmere example, her categories are very clearly defined, and she actually sticks them to the very top of her blog, much like you might have a defined page, like your About Us page on the blog. In Tumblr, these tags are searchable, not only across your blog, but others as well. So a post tagged with something like food would put up not only your food posts, but food posts across the entire Tumblr landscape. People who like one piece of content on a certain topic often click to see more of the same, and a properly designed tagging and categorization system will allow users to better navigate your website. That's why it's important to design these categories and tags consistently and with purpose from the get-go. Here's a real-life example. I'm searching for a recipe on one of my favorite food blogs, Smitten Kitchen. Say that I see a post for a great appetizer on tuna ceviche. Yum. When that post is at the top of the blog, it's front of mind, and I can see it, as can other users. But a year later, when Smitten Kitchen writes another post about, say, sea bass ceviche, She uses the same consistent set of tags. Say those tags are seafood, ceviche, and appetizers, and the category is recipes. I can click on any of those tags and instantly discover multiple ceviche recipes, great appetizers, and even that tag specifically for seafood, which might lead me to discover great main courses and other things as well. Of course, this only works when the writer is consistent. If one day I tag something as appetizers and the next day I tag it as apps or app or appetizer without the S, my user is only going to come across a fraction of my total amount of posts. Relying on site search isn't enough. If the exact tags aren't present in the body or the headline of the post, sometimes the search engine misses a piece of relevant content simply because you hadn't tagged it correctly. If you're a small blog, this is really just an oh shoot, clever for you moment. But if you're a big blog, a brand, or you're really trying to monetize each post as a company, that's going to be really valuable revenue down the drain and potentially large areas of unrealized content potential. Think of it as the home analogy again. If I asked you to gather up all the pillows in my house, but in one place I called pillows soft, fluffy things to sleep on, and then I called it pillows in another spot, you'd probably only gather about half of what I was asking you to find. Search engines also see the things the same way. Call it one thing in one place and another in another, they're not going to recognize that they're the same thing. So, in the eyes of the search engines and the user, consistency is key and can also help drive your overall search ranking and the general happiness of your users as well. The bottom line here, be consistent and spend some time thinking logically about the categories and tags before applying them. You can certainly change them later, but oftentimes after you have a lot of posts, it does end up being a real headache. This week, we're going to start writing, so we'll continue this discussion with a look into what makes the perfect blog post. In truth, there is no perfect blog post because perfect to one person is boring to another. But we know or assume at least that our audience has some common factors, and so here are a few best practices to mention, as well as key elements of a blog post. The head of your blog post is the headline. Every post needs a headline. Try to make this descriptive, engaging, indicative of what's in the content of the post itself, and give people a reason why they need to click right now. The heart of the blog post is the body. Every post needs text in the body of the post. 200 to 500 words is a good length, and I'd suggest that probably not going over 800 words if you don't have to is a good sort of baseline of information, just because people have really short attention span. It's like Goldilocks. Make sure your posts are not too short, not too long, but just right. The hand is the hook and the formatting. Avoid large chunks of text. Just like nobody wants to read a 1,000-word book of a blog post, nobody likes giant paragraphs staring at them from their screen or even their cell phone. Remember that more and more readers are going to access your work from a mobile or tablet device, so consider more user-friendly formatting. Short paragraphs, bullets, and bolded subheads work to break up the visual look and feel of your blog post. Images or video are the feet. You can format your post in a variety of ways, but if text is your main medium, consider using at least one image or visual piece of content per post. Images get better lift on social media and visually make a post more engaging. Videos are great too, if they're done well. Internal and external links are also feet. We'll discuss links a lot more when we get to SEO next week, but you may want to consider having about one link per 100 words. Give readers a link to a tag that offers more content on your subject. That's called an internal link when it points to content that's inside your blog. Or link externally to the source material for your ideas so that readers can know what inspired you. When you send a reader off of your website, that's called an external link. Last but not least, proofread the darn blog post. Spelling errors and wonky formatting looks sloppy and hurts your credibility as both a blogger, and it just doesn't make you look as attractive or credible to a reader. It's like leaving the house in ratty old sweatpants. Take time to look presentable at all times. All right, last topic for today, guys, and perhaps the most important. We're going to talk about editorial calendars. So you've thought logically about what you want to write, why you want to write it, and we've even talked about the logistics of making it all come together on the page. Now we're going to figure out how to keep ourselves organized. The best way to do this is an editorial calendar. It's a top-line plan that lets you plot out what you're going to post about, what each post will say, and keep track of as many or as few details as you like. Think of this editorial calendar as your date book for your blog. You can jot down where you're meeting somebody, what time you're meeting them, what you plan to talk about, the meeting agenda, and all sorts of extra details. This calendar can serve many purposes, but most of all, it's going to keep you organized as a writer. For me, it allows me to think about my blog on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis, and then come back and revisit it year over year. I use my editorial calendar to decide on focus themes for the month or week, key topics that I'm going to write, plan out when I'll write and what I'll write about, and also keep track of details like what categories and what tags I'm going to use for each post and how I'm going to promote that post on social media. The calendar is your space to get organized. It's your time to commit to a schedule and to keep yourself accountable. You can really do this calendar in any format that you want. The example on the screen is a plugin for WordPress that allows you to keep that calendar right in WordPress. You might want to use the Google Calendar that comes as part of your Google Apps. You could use a pen and a paper date book. You could use an Excel document. Really, it's absolutely any way that makes sense to you. The most important thing is just to find a system that works for you and stick to it. Editorial calendar is kind of like going to the gym. It only works if you stick to it. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Now you're on to your homework. This week's assignment is to design your blog and purchase your custom domain name and create the editorial calendar for the first month of your posting. You'll also want to write your first 5 blog posts and any static pages that appear on your blog. If you can, I would suggest starting with one of each type of content or series that you plan to create on a regular basis. Just test it out and see if it'll work. I know it's a lot to do in one short week. If you have questions, feel free to post them on the forums. You'll get feedback from me, of course, but often other students will chime in as well. I can't wait to see you in the live lecture, and feel free to file any questions you have for me ahead of time if you can't make it. See you soon.